Welcome to part 2 of the ultimate guide to the top 100 investor mistakes. Everybody makes these. Don't make them. Save money and time. Okay, 51, skipping the market analysis. People, you need to understand your competition. And when I say this, when we do the market analysis, we're looking at actives, we're looking at pendings, we're looking at solds. So I'm bringing something back to the market. But are there 5 things I'm competing with, or are there no competition? What direction is price headed? What direction is average days on market? Is everyone having to do price reductions? Is there inventory that's available? If we skip this, we don't know what we should be doing both on the buy side and on when we go to sell it.
Number 52, not visiting the property at different times.
Ooh, this is a huge one, and home buyers need to really pay attention to this one too. As an investor or a home buyer, if you go and everything's amazing and it's bright and sunny that day, is it always going to look like that? Is it always going to be like that? Is it always going to be safe? So what I would recommend is that you go back during the evening, go back during rush hour traffic, go back to see what are the sounds of this neighborhood. Do I feel safe in the evening? Because if I don't feel safe in the evening, are my tenants going to feel safe? Or my construction guys, if we're building a house, are they going to feel safe? This is why you should go back to a property at different times. Traffic, neighborhood, community, and safety is what you're looking for. 53,
choosing a realtor without vetting them.
Come freaking on, people. Everyone goes, I hired Susie because she's my best friend. Is Susie the right person for the job? So if you're buying investment properties, here's how you vet them. How many investment properties do you own? How long have you been investing? If they don't get past these first 2 questions that they're not investing themselves, fire them, get rid of them. They don't know what they're doing. They're not willing to put their money where their mouth is. See, I want to play the game of real estate with people who are playing the game like me. So you want a professional who's selling a ton of real estate, number 1. Number 2, you want someone who's investing their own money and has a track record and a history of success in the area, the neighborhood, and with the type of property. So for example, if someone was to call and say, hey, Anton, help me buy this office building. I could do it. I'm not going to be the best at it. And they say, hey, Anton, help me get a smoking deal on this multifamily or this land development project. I'm going to kill it. Because those are things I like, those are things I own, those are things we do. Pick the right agent for the right job.
Number 54, understanding the impact of bad neighborhoods.
Ooh, people greatly underestimate a bad neighborhood. Let me explain. In a bad neighborhood, you're going to have higher turnover on your rentals. Your rents are going to be lower. They're going to take longer to rent. So you may get a smoking deal, but if that neighborhood isn't in the process of transitioning, it's not growing, it's not getting better in front of your eyes, you may have to own that for 20, 30 years. When you just be better off to pay a little bit more, buy it on the right side of the tracks, in the right neighborhood, get something easy to rent, easy to maintain, less likely to be vandalized. My one that I own, and it is literally on the wrong side of the tracks here in Marysville, it gets broken into all the time, okay? It had squatters. We had to kick the squatters out. I got a picture from the neighbor just south of it. By the way, the door's pried open again. Oh, crap. Send it over to the contractor. Contractor says, I'll go get a shotgun. No, don't go down there. I'm leaving anyway. I'm super annoyed by this. I don't know, with or without said shotgun. Goes and kicks people out of the house again. Why? It's on the wrong side of the tracks. But we're going to dozer it eventually and build multiple townhomes in its place. But until then, I have a problem that I'm going to have to put up with.
Number 55, buying in an overly restrictive zoning area.
And I also want to add this one too, buying in overly restrictive HOAs, overly restrictive CCNRs, or overly restrictive zoning will prevent your long-term future growth and upside. Let me explain. Right now in Washington State, we passed the DADU law, which means the detached accessory dwelling unit, or those little mother-in-laws, are going to be able to be built in most neighborhoods. Well, there are certain municipalities that are going to try to prevent that via zoning, and there are HOAs that are also going to try to prevent that because they have bylaws that say only one dwelling unit. So you need to be really aware of whatever your long-term goals are in regards to zoning, HOAs, and CC&Rs. Check all three of those depending on your long-term goals.
Number 56, neglecting to negotiate the art of the deal.
Have you ever seen someone where you're like, you go to buy something from them and, I want to buy your teacup right there. And I go, hey, I'll give you $5. And they just go, okay. And you go, well, maybe I could have bought it for $4. And you kind of second guess, even if $5 was a good deal and it was worth 10. One, there needs to be a deal and a negotiation. Both buyer and seller feel good about that. Two, if your goal is to make money in real estate investing, you make money when you're purchasing, not when you're selling. All the money is made on the front end, on the buy. The good deal happens then, and then you just turn it into a better deal before you sell it. That's number two. Number three, people forget there are two major sides to every negotiation: price and terms. Sometimes they only negotiate one part of it and they don't negotiate the whole thing. This is a whole episode in itself, negotiating, so we can talk about that more, but be willing to negotiate and you have to buy right.
Number 57, investing without a cash reserve.
There are times when you as a real estate investor are going to be hit with surprises. Hot water tanks, leaky toilets, trees falling on your house. Yes, this happened. Tree falling through a deck. Someone, a tenant that was a little bit overweight, quite a bit, broke the front deck and no boards were wrong. But there's things that happen, plumbing leaks, natural disasters. One of our tenants lit the carpet on fire. These things just happen. You should have 6 months worth of reserves. So if the payment's $2,000 a month, you should have $12,000 or 6 months worth of reserves sitting in an account for that particular property to pay for these unforeseen circumstances. That will greatly protect you against almost all of these things when they happen.
Number 58, not checking the crime statistics.
Once again, this goes back to one of the earlier ones where people are like, I just go to the neighborhood once. So if you're going to buy an investment property, whatever it may be, a land development project, a flip, something you're going to hold long term, you have to feel safe there, your workers have to feel safe there, and your tenants have to feel safe there. Otherwise, you run into problems and theft and vandalism over and over again. You should always pop up crime statistics, figure out what they are, is it high or low for that area, and then what is most likely happening, and then plan accordingly. All of this data is all over the internet, and another thing that's very interesting, you can call the police department and say, hey, what do you think about this area? Or what do you think about this particular property? There was a property that we bought and we called the police department and they said, we have 127 open active incidents against this property. So it's a problem. Now I can discount the price and mentally tune my brain for the brain damage I'm going to go through dealing with this property in this neighborhood.
Number 59, believing you'll always find a buyer or renter.
We're over optimistic about always having a buyer or a renter available to us. You have to always be looking at which way the wind is blowing. And how do we know which way the wind is blowing in real estate? We know which way the wind is blowing by digging into the data. Are rents going up or down? Are they flat? Are vacancy factors going up or down? Are days on market going up or down? Is prices going up or down? See, if I know the data, and you can reach out to us anytime at resg.com or 425-249-0214, and we will get this data to you. This is important. This helps to make the right decisions. But if I don't know which way it's going, then what I do is I overestimate based on my optimism, and then that optimism costs me a bunch of money.
Number 60, ignoring the importance of good schools nearby.
So think about this, right? You're renting a 3-bedroom ranch or rambler, aka a 1-story home. It's 3-bed, 2-bath. A 3-bedroom rambler is there a high likelihood that someone's going to rent from you and possibly have children? So if they have children, they're going to be concerned about the school district. So based on whatever property type that you're doing, whether it's going to be for rent or for sale, if it's got enough bedrooms for you to have kids, consider the school district. Because right here in Marysville, for example, if we just go to the south end of Marysville, over there on Sunnyside, it is still Marysville, but there's a line where you cross that line and you move right into the Lake Stevens School District. And the Lake Stevens School District is a little better than the Marysville School District. So even though it's a Marysville address, you cross this line, the homes on the other side of that line sell for 15 to 25 grand more. Same home, different school district. School districts are important.
61, failing to check the property history of repairs.
Ooh. Okay, so this one's actually harder to figure out than people think. One, get an inspection on the property and ask the inspector to pay attention to, hey, what do you think's been updated in the property? What hasn't been updated based on the age of the property? It's a great question to ask. What you're doing is you're asking him to open his mind's eye, his Jedi-ness, as he looks around and goes, you know what, the plumbing's been updated, the electrical's been updated. And then one of the other things you should do, especially if I'm going to own this long term, is I walk over and hey neighbor, how you doing? Hey, my name's Anton. I like to buy properties and make them beautiful and bring phenomenal people into the neighborhood. And that's what I'm going to do with that one right over there. By the way, what happened with this house? What's going on here? What can you tell me about it? And then you say, really? Wow, no way. Tell me more. And what they do is they'll tell you the history of whatever they know about it. And you want to know, like, oh, wait, they had a pipe burst in the master that flooded everything. Or
rat infested.
It was rat infested. Yeah. What were the major problems? But if you don't ask the questions and get your inspector to start to open his eye or the contractor to open his eye, you'll miss these things.
62, overlooking the impact of nearby developments.
Let's say we're in North Seattle, shoreline area. And I've got a home that's like 1920s and it's older and functionally obsolescent. And then right down the street, they start building brand new apartments, brand new townhomes, or brand new single family homes. Is the demand for it could be super cute. My cute little old house, is it going to go up or down?
Maybe it's going to go down.
It's totally going to go down because people like new, bright, shiny, clean, nicer plumbing, better toilets, better insulation, better energy efficiency, air conditioning. So as we're purchasing our investment, whether it's buy, hold, flip, develop, whatever, we got to look at the surrounding area and say, what's my competition again? Because they're going to steal my buyer or they're going to steal my tenant.
Number 63, ignoring the age of major systems.
Anyone, have you ever bought a home and then instantly had something break? Please let us know if this has happened to you. If you have a hot water tank that's older than 7 years old, if you have a furnace that's basically like older than 15 years old, if you have a dishwasher that's older than 10 years old, a refrigerator, a microwave. What happens is all of these major systems at a certain point, they just all start to break at the same time. We bought a rental property in Everett and I was like, it's fine. Hot water tank's like 8 years old. Furnace is like 21 years old. Within the first 2 months of purchasing it, both of them broke. So you've got to have those reserves sitting there. But if they're near the end of their usable life, you need to account for that and put something away up front because that expense is coming sooner than you think. Be prepared.
Number 64, falling for sunk cost fallacy.
So, major flaw in humans right here. This is human nature at its greatest. We just said sunk cost fallacy and we lost most of the people. What is sunk cost fallacy? Real simple. That means I've put money into something and even though I'm losing, I'm going to keep putting money in, hoping it magically comes back. Don't worry, one day this neighborhood's going to get better and everything's going to be safer and my rent's going to go up. At some point, you have to look around and say, am I just being a gambler at the blackjack table, shoving it in? And is my emotion keeping me tied to this investment? And should I just sell it and walk away? The hardest time personally we've had with this one is in development projects, because I'm one of those guys who believes I can fix everything and I'll find a way through it. But there are some where that municipality or that particular property, it's just not going to work, or it's going to take too long or too much money. And so there's times when we've had to just sell them and just walk away, sometimes even at a loss. Check your emotions when you're just burning money on a property.
Bonus answer. How does a beginner investor know when they should be selling a property and moving on to the next and taking a loss on that one?
Ooh, that's a really good one. You need to find mentors, coaches, and communities that you can get involved in that can give you that kind of guidance. Tonight, we're doing one of our investor meetups in Kirkland with one of our amazing lenders. So you guys can always come and hang out with us if you're local to the Seattle Metro. You can call us. We do private coaching, but you better be motivated. And we're happy to help with that. But it's about finding the right people, because then what happens is I can go to Benji, the wise Jedi Knight that I was just talking with about content, and say, Master Jedi, here's what I was doing. Here's what I'm thinking. And then he can point me in the right direction and help me control that emotion, or say, no, this is something you should just walk away from. It's about finding coaches, mentors, and communities to be a part of, and then read books, subscribe to us, watch more YouTube videos, things like that. Also
have a good agent.
Oh, bro. It's so much. It's like, that's like the start of it. It's not just have a good agent, have a professional that has your back, that understands what they're doing, that is spending their own money fighting the game you're playing.
Number 65, overlooking the importance of good natural light.
Now that we've started building townhomes and developments, and these are things I didn't do, a decade ago. In these townhomes, when they're 3 stories and they're right next to each other, they actually cast a big shadow. And so you have to think about where the windows are. And we were working on this development, and it had a pretty good slope to it. It had a retaining wall on this lot, was 6 feet tall. A retaining wall on this lot was 9 feet tall, and a 14-foot retaining wall on this one. That casts a big shadow. So you have to go to the property at multiple times during the day to see how it looks. But also you have to understand that natural light is so important to humans that it makes them more joyous. It'll keep them there longer. They pay higher prices for it. We sold a property to a buyer like last year, right? Beautiful landscaped back patio. This water feature that it pumped up from the pond into 3 levels, and this beautiful overhang with skylights inside of it. But that back patio faces east. And the shrubs have grown up so much around the back patio that as the sun comes over it on the south side, the second the sun gets to like 1 or 2 o'clock and it's sitting above the house, because it faces the east and those giant shrubs, the whole back patio starts to get dark. And so the client says, hey, what should we do about that? And I said, honestly, you need to cut down the 15-year-old vegetation and it will brighten it up, because this is just something from experience, right? But the previous owner was probably living there, sitting in their kitchen, washing their dishes and being like, man, it's dark at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Natural light, so important.
Number 66, investing in a declining neighborhood.
How would you know a neighborhood is declining? Like, I want the Benji answer.
See a lot of signs for sale, maybe. Or,
yeah.
I don't know. I always say dead cars in the driveway.
Boom. Boom. No. Okay. If you drive through and you start to see lawns that are unmowed, dead cars in the driveway, someone standing out with a stained wife beater, cigarette halfway hanging out, bottle of beer and or booze, and I'm joking about this, but there are telltale signs. And there are also telltale signs on the other side when a neighborhood's in transition, when the neighborhood is reversing. All of a sudden you drive through and 2 houses are getting flipped and everything's looking beautiful. So you want to know the trends of the neighborhood. And if you can't figure it out, walk around and find someone who's lived there for 20 years and ask them which direction the neighborhood's going.
Or number 67, not considering property management costs.
If you're not hiring a property manager, you are the property manager. And everyone works for money unless they're just independently wealthy. So the most of the people listening to this are working for some type of money, whether that's hourly, salary, commission, whatever it is. What people discount is their hours they're going to put into property management. That has a cost. It's their time, and their time is valuable. Secondly, if they're hiring a property manager, they still have to manage the property manager. So there's always time that goes into it, and it's more than just the property management fee or your time. You have to consider the value of your time, the property manager, and the management of them and the tenant.
Number 68, forgetting to factor in inflation.
Has inflation gone up and things gotten a little more expensive over the last couple of years?
Mm-hmm.
And, what happened to your favorite coffee and your favorite steak? Like, how much did they go up?
Well, maybe by 30, 50%.
The same thing happened in labor and in materials. So that means you want to fix something on your house. It's probably 20 to 30% more right now than it was 3 years ago. So no one ever does this. What you do is inside of your pro forma, there should be a certain amount set aside for expenses. And there should be a factor of at least 3% that those expenses rise every year. But what people do is they just assume they're always going to be the same. And what's hitting everyone right now is the insurance one. The insurance one, the property taxes one, just insane. A part of my sprinkler system at my house broke. And it's a double check valve. And so it's right there in the beginning. It's got a brass fitting. It's been sitting in the dirt for 15 years. And I literally stuck the water key in and I twisted it to turn on. And the handle spun, it broke the top of it, and it was literally just seized. So you had to cut the whole thing out. To pay a plumber to come by and do that is $125 an hour. It's $125 to $200 to get them to show up. And it was $200 worth of parts. I'm blessed because I know enough people in this particular industry. I was able to get it done magically, unbelievably quick, and very cost effective, But someone else, that was a $700 problem like that. And you know what my wife's saying? They're killing, my grass is going to die. I want my grass to be green. Get the sprinklers fixed. This part of the expenses, though, you have to just assume it's always going to go up. And you just keep putting the money aside because the rainy day is coming and you're sooner or later going to have to expend it. 69,
relying on outdated market data.
Okay. We are really big into market data. You've heard that multiple times over this 100-point guide that mistakes people make. What people will do is people will look at data for the U.S. housing market or out of the news in general. So for instance, like the Case-Shiller Index. The Case-Shiller Home Price Index, when it publishes itself, is 60 to 80 days behind the market. The market could have dramatically changed. And with interest rates changing and with economies changing, you need to be looking at that market data daily, weekly, monthly at a minimum. But you can't look at something from 90 days ago and assume the market is still the same today.
And you have to focus on your local data.
Yes.
Specifically.
Yeah, because what buyers watch And investors, they watch the news and they assume what's happening in the national market is the same. Real estate is a local game that happens on the local level with local specific intricacies that's impacted by the local economy.
Number 70, not understanding the tax implications.
This is both a pro and a con. Like this is a negative and a positive, which is kind of crazy. Tax implications are very, like to nail these. One, your property taxes in the state of Washington, for example, are going to be about 1.25% of the value. So even if you bought something that was worth 600 grand, you paid 400 grand, and it was $4,000 a year in taxes, you have to immediately assume that you're going to be paying a minimum of $6,250 in taxes as soon as the assessor gets a hold of you. So that's one of the big ones. The second big one is they're not ready for the property taxes to go up. They're not factoring that into their long-term pro forma. The third one is they're not factoring in the tax benefit, though, depreciation, cost segregations, aka rapid and bonus depreciation. Lastly, they're not thinking about the cost implications of when they sell it. See, if I hold an investment property for 3 years, I go to sell it, I have to recapture all of my depreciation, plus I have to pay taxes on the gain unless I'm going to do a 1031 tax deferred exchange. So my recommendation when we play in the real estate game is that you need to meet with your tax professional once a quarter. This is what I'm doing. These are the moves I'm making. This is where the money's coming from. And strategize with them about the pros and cons of the choices that you're thinking about making before they're made. Don't make the mistake that most wannabe investors make. What they do is they do it and then they show up at the tax man after the fact and they shove them a bunch of receipts with no planning and go, hey, here's what I did. And they go, here's a bill for 100 grand.
Don't pay Uncle Sam.
Yeah.
If you can avoid it. Okay, 71, falling for the allure of luxury finishes.
Massive mistake. This happens in flipping. This happens in new construction. This happens in rentals. Just because you like things a certain way doesn't mean that will increase the value of the rent, the value of the home it resells for. You have to make the finishes in line with the neighborhood and the end user. So let me give you an example. Let's just say it's a middle-class neighborhood in a middle-class area, and all the homes are normal. If you go in there and you put in radiant heat flooring and you put in, really nice granite countertops and a beautiful handmade tile backsplash and full tile surrounds in the master bath and the hall bath and a giant covered back patio, those are all beautiful things. But you probably won't make a return and get a higher rent or a higher resale because of it. So make sure your finishes match the area.
72, not having a backup financial plan.
When you purchase real estate, please hear me. You need to have plan A, B, C, and D. And in each one of these is how I'm going to finance it, what's my backup if that financing doesn't work, and what's my backup to my backup, and the backup to the backup to the backup. You also need multiple exit strategies. Can I hold this? Can I rent it? Can I wholesale it? Can I hotel it? Can I flip it? Can I subdivide it? You need multiple strategies because then what that does is then you purchase a property, you have multiple exit strategies and multiple ways to finance it. Because the worst thing that happens is you've got the best deal ever, and all of a sudden 5 days before closing, your lender says, hey, Anton, I'm sorry, you can't finance this one, and you don't have a backup plan, you may lose that deal.
Number 73, buying in an area with high turnover rates.
If the vacancy factor or the vacancy rate is very high for that area, that means it's going to turn over faster, which means you're going to go through a lot of repairs, a lot of tenant placement fees, a lot of credit check fees, and a lot of brain damage hunting for new tenants. It's good though, on the other side, if there's a high turnover factor and I'm building a home or doing a land development project. So if there's a lot of sales happening, that can be a benefit. But really, we were referring to vacancy rates when we were making this one.
Number 74, believing rental income will cover all expenses.
What we're talking about here is when it's skinny. When I got $3,000 a month in rental income coming in for the property, and I got $2,700 a month in expenses. So I only have $300 in cash flow. That doesn't have enough buffer cash flow to deal with unforeseen circumstances, a roof leak, the hot water tank going out, furnace need to be replaced, tenant destroying the carpet, things like that.
A bonus on this one for when I have rentals is I don't take money out of my rentals until I have that kind of, like a 6-month emergency fund kind of thing for that property. What do you think about that?
I think that is wise. And that what that does is, for me, I'm super conservative. So that provides me peace of mind and helps me to sleep good at night. Because then any unforeseen expense pops up, I don't have to dig into my pocket in order to pay for it at that moment. I can just reach into the bank account, boom, pay the expense. I don't have to think twice.
So what is the number or the range when it's too high?
Ooh, too high. Too high depends on the economy. In a economy that's going down, I would recommend that you have between 6 to 12 months. In an economy that's booming, 6 months is more than ample, and there may be times when you could even get away with 4.
So you're saying 6 months of rental income that you have enough to cover if it was vacant, but not for vacancies, but for paying for stuff. Got it.
Yeah. 6 months is ideal, but as an economy, slows down, you should always try to increase those cash reserves, because that is your opportunity also. Because if all of a sudden you're sitting on a bunch of cash and the economy really tanks, well, then you have your soldiers to go deploy to go win.
Number 75, not factoring in the cost of renovations and repairs.
When a tenant moves out, how much does it cost to turn a unit? Like, what would be the lowest number?
500?
That would have to be perfect. I would say like the lowest cost you're gonna get away from to turn a unit, and this is in the Seattle area, $1,500. Okay. So an easy way to think about this is that every time you go to turn a unit, assume it's 1 month's worth of the rent. Okay. That's a very easy way to do that. Now, at times, of course, it's going to be much more than that. Very rarely are you going to walk out and you're like, man, this thing's perfect. Look at that. The paint's perfect. The carpet's perfect. There's no dings. That's just not, people don't treat properties that nice. So having 1 month as kind of sitting there to be able to do that. And then also, so that's just the repairs. That's to turn the unit. If you own them for a long period of time, so basically every 10 to 15 years, you will go through a major renovation, a major maintenance cycle. And you've got to start putting money away for, they're called CapEx, or capital expenditures, which are major expenditures, which isn't just paint and carpet and things like that, which may include replacing the furnace, which may include redoing the siding, replacing the windows, replacing the roof. So if your time horizon is long, as you get a few years into this and hey, I'm going to hold this 10, 20 years, you need to start setting away for capital expenditures.
Number 76, falling for the allure of off-market properties.
Everyone wants a deal. I love hunting off-market properties, but there's an allure to them. They are the sirens. And in Greek mythology, what did the sirens do?
Eat you?
They sang a song. They attracted the ships onto the beach so that they could eat them. Yes, off-market properties can be the same thing. Buyer beware. Less protection. That's number one. Number two, because it's off market, what happens is the pace is generally moving faster. So there's a pressure to purchase it now and today. which may prevent you from making the best financial decision. What happens is the wholesaler calls and says, hey, I got this deal. Oh, we need non-refundable earnest money. You got to close in 10 days. It's cash only. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. And because of the fear of missing out, you get all worried. You're like, oh, I just want to throw the money. I didn't get it done. Watch out for them. They're great. They can be great deals, but control the emotion around.
Number 77, not getting everything in writing.
I took a class in college called business law. And in business law, phenomenal professor, he's talking about contracts. And he goes, if it's not in writing, it doesn't exist. If it's not in writing, it doesn't exist. Verbal promises mean nothing. By the way, our society is becoming more litigious, ladies and gentlemen. And that really stuck with me. Because if it's not in the contract and in writing, it doesn't exist. And when you go and look at and this is, I've only get to see this in Washington State, the majority of the lawsuits are private party real estate transactions where it was a he said, she said, and it wasn't in the contract. So put it in the contract, put it in writing, get it signed by both parties. That way it's clear. And good contracts are smart. They're specific, measurable, action-oriented, real, and time-bound. If you write a contract that has those smart things in it, you have phenomenal contracts.
Number 78, buying without a clear investment goal.
We talk to investors all the time, and these investors go like this. What would you like to buy? I want a deal. What's a deal to you? I just want a deal. I'm sorry, you have no goals. You are wandering in the wilderness, hoping that you just magically show up at the promised land someday. You need to have a very specific goal. You need to have a short-term goal, a midterm goal, a long-term goal. You need to have a certain type of return. You need to have a buy box. You need to have a type of property that you purchase. You need to have an area that you purchase. You need to have a market that you study so you feel comfortable making that investment decision. Otherwise, you just wander around in the wilderness.
Number 79, not exploring alternative financing options.
Alternative financing options. Okay, here's what we were talking about when we said this. An alternative finance option is I could just go to the bank and I could get my conventional investor loan by putting 20 to 25% down. But what if I could get owner financing? What if I could get the owner to carry a second? What if I could use the cash value of my life insurance to purchase it? What if I could use my IRA? What if I could get a portfolio loan? What if I could get dear Aunt Tilly to co-sign with me? Go, baby, go. There are many, many, many tricks and many types of creative financing methods. What happens is people, they just stick on the I-5 interstate version when there's so many other types of financing available.
Number 80, failing to diversify your real estate portfolio.
Have you ever thought about like portfolio theory, in the stock market and things like that? What do they tell you?
Diversify.
So they tell you like, don't own just Amazon.
Yes.
So this is the mistake people make. They own one or two properties and they're like 2 minutes from each other and they don't own other ones. There's no diversification. And diversification in real estate can be so simple. Literally, buy a property in Seattle, buy one in Shoreline, buy one in Edmonds, buy one in Everett, buy one in Marysville, buy one in Arlington, blah, blah, blah. You get the idea. All of a sudden, boom, I'm diversified. 2, as they're doing their 1031 exchanges, they get a lot of equity stacked into one property. What we like to do is I don't want to have all my money in one property and just own 20 units in one location. Because what happens if something drastic happened there? What happens, or what we recommend is that if you're going to 1031 and you're going to roll that equity forward, take it and split it up into multiple properties. It's very easy to diversify. Just don't have all our eggs in one basket.
Number 81, not understanding your market.
The market. It's like we've been saying this one over and over and over again. In the Seattle Metro right now, we are in a seller's market. Days on market are as low. We are having bidding wars on most of what's happening. All of the market is hot except for some condos. Notice how I can just immediately say that because I know those numbers. So I want you to study the market in which you invest in, and I want you to look at it multiple times a week so you know the market so you can make good, quick purchasing, selling, investing decisions.
Yeah, the allure of getting a better deal in another market, but not realizing the wisdom and value of knowing your local market is a huge mistake investors make, partly because of books, seminars, and courses. Invest anywhere and get a great deal, not in your neighborhood, over here in the desert of Mojave or whatever, So
No,
I always say you always know your market the best, and there's a lot of value in that.
It's where your network is. It's where you know more professionals. And I'll be blunt. We got to work a little harder to find deals here in the Seattle Metro, but our deals are better. Okay. And our market appreciates faster. So this is an appreciation market, not a cash flow market. But I'm selling my out-of-state stuff right now in cash flow markets and bringing them home to the appreciating market. Why? Because those cash flow markets are not going to appreciate much over the next few years with the economy the way it is. So might as well bring the money home and take the ride here.
Boom. Number 82, underestimating the impact of interest rates.
So a small percentage, like 20, 25%, sometimes 30% of real estate is paid for in cash. That means the vast majority of real estate is financed. That means the consumer, if they're buying a home, or if we're purchasing a home, or if we're an investor, it's all dependent on the rate. As rates go up, payments go up. But as rates go up, it also affects our cash flow, our cap rates, and things like that. A 1% change in interest rate affects a buyer 10% in purchasing power. It affects an investor even more because not only does it affect their purchasing power, it affects their cash flow and their cap rate and their ability to hold long term. Interest rates are so important.
And so that means you should be watching rates or talking to people that understand the rates and when they might go up and down.
You need to find two people, an awesome mortgage broker and an awesome real estate broker like us who follows them on a regular basis. You personally can just kind of watch the 10-year treasury. That'll give you an indication. But then someone like us or one of our preferred lenders could give you guidance as to which way the wind is blowing and then how to properly take advantage of that as an investor.
Number 83, skipping due diligence on the neighborhood.
Due diligence on the neighborhood. Pull the CC&Rs. Covenants, conditions, and restrictions. That's what controls what you can do with a property. 2, review the HOA. How much are the dues? When was the last time they raised them? Any major things coming? What are they spending on? Who's running it? 3, how many rentals are in that neighborhood? We just tried to sell a home in Seattle, and it's part of this townhome complex. 72% of them were rentals. We didn't even know that. And as we go to put it on the market, the buyers coming to purchase it can't get financed because of the owner-occupied to rental ratio. So that will affect the next person. So just understand, the direction of the neighborhood. And then, is it newer? Is it older based on, and I'm talking demographic-wise, and then where's it at in the cycle? Is it revitalizing or is it dying?
Number 84, ignoring the property's proximity to amenities.
So I own rural properties and I own in-city properties. I'll be honest, the rural ones are a little harder to rent, but they stay there longer. Cool. The in-city ones are super quick to rent because what happens is they go, oh, I can go walk my dog in the park right over there. I go to my favorite CrossFit gym right over there. My daughter can go to that school. Amenities is important. And as our homes get bigger and the yards get smaller, the surrounding amenities are going to become even more important in the future. That's a bonus investor tip.
Number 85, investing without understanding your risk tolerance.
I'm going to go on a rabbit trail for a second here. An amazing discussion that you should have with your significant other is how do you define safety, security, and risk? And this is something, as you ask this to your significant other, they will not be able to answer it. This will take you a year of having this discussion. If you can define that with whoever your partner in crime is, that individual now becomes your ally in investing, and you need them to be your ally. And you need to define what's risky to you and what's not risky. For me to buy a land development project, zero risk. Okay? Some monetary risk, right? I may burn some dollars. For Joe Schmo to come in off the street and buy what I'm buying, massive risk. Why? I've done something for 20 years that individual hasn't. And so you need to, when we're playing this game, because the dollars are so big, you need to check the ego at the door and define what makes good risk, what makes bad risk, and then never take a risk that can sink the whole ship. If you look around and say, if I screw up this deal and this one's going to be catastrophic and this one's going to make me homeless and bankrupt, don't do that deal.
No matter what the upside is.
No matter what the upside is.
86, not considering the impact of new regulations.
This one is a prime example would be the Airbnb problem. So all of a sudden you have major metros, New York, Las Vegas, city of Lake Stevens right over here, that all of a sudden just go, oh, we're going to outlaw Airbnbs. And they just squish someone's whole investment strategy. And so I'm using that as an example, but whatever the investment strategy is, you need to know what the local politicians are doing, what your HOA is doing, that's going to come attack your investing strategy, and you need to get involved. You've got to get involved in local politics if you're going to play this game.
Hence why investing in your local market is a huge benefit, because you're going to understand those regulations.
Yes, and you won't get caught by surprise.
Number 87, overlooking the impact of local economic trends.
So I flew to Chattanooga, Tennessee, and we had a bundle of properties under contract. There was like 22 of them. Our investment group was just going to go buy them all. And as I was there, I'm looking at the local economic trends. I'm looking at who's the major employer? Why are people moving here? Who are the employers that are downsizing? And you come to find out, like, they've got some of the best high-speed internet in the nation. You've got Ford there. You've got these other major industries. You've got this cute little downtown vibrant area, that's real hip. All these cute little houses. You've got the river. I really liked that city, okay? And it's also why I really like the Seattle Metro. So I like the north end of the Seattle Metro the most. Why? Because if you're looking at Seattle and the east side, aka Bellevue, Redmond, and Kirkland, most of the growth is going north. That's where all the jobs are going. That's where all the land development is going. It's where the new construction is going for new warehouses, new factories, new offices. Yes, there's some going south, so don't discount this, but there's more going north. So that's why I'm following those local economic trends. They're right here. What else we got? We got Boeing. We got Amazon. We got Microsoft. We have a Google site, Facebook. We've got the Port of Seattle. So there's a lot going for us right here. Wherever you invest, figure out what that is and how your investment's going to be supported by the local economy.
Number 88, trusting your gut without doing the research.
I have, no joke, had people call me and they're like, man, I really want to buy this property. I said, okay, let's buy it. Let's do it. And they go, why do you want to buy it? And they go, well, my gut says this is a good deal. I was like, well, does it math? And they're like, maybe? I was like, we haven't done any math. So what we do is we sit down, we crank through the pro forma, we figure out the investment and figure out, does it math? Okay, because if the maths, then you should buy it.
AKA make money.
Make money. If it's not going to make money, it's not a good investment. But what happens is people get all emotional. They love the neighborhood. They grew up near there. Their grandma lives nearby, whatever it may be. The house was super cute. And they go, I just want to buy it. Well, only buy it if it's a good deal and you can make money.
Number 89, buying into a crowded market without a niche.
Let's look at rentals just to use this one for an example. Crowded market, no niche. Let's say there are... Up in Smoky Point, I just drove through there to go look at a land development project. And on the west side of Smoky Point, they're building, I want to say it's like 400 more apartment units. It might even be 7. And these giant stacks are coming out of the ground. They're building A-class apartment units that are 1, 2, and 3 bedroom, and all the rents there start at like $1,700 and they go to like $3,000. That market is becoming overcrowded right there. Now, if I have a Rambler or a 2-story that's right around the corner from that, and I'm going to be somewhere near that price range, now I've got a little diamond, a little gem that I can use that's going to be different than everyone else. In other words, don't go fight the current. Go with the current and just find your own little way that you can carve out your little diamond.
Number 90, not understanding the impact of supply and demand.
Supply and demand, what you can do is for a property in Shoreline, we just put it under contract for one of our investors. A $5 million property, possible 190 unit apartment complex. This is big boy real estate, big girl real estate. What we did was we went and we pulled all the CoStar data out of there. And the CoStar data shows all the multifamilies that have sold, all of the cap rates on everything that's sold, all of the average rents, the direction of the rents, the direction of the cap rates, and what's happening with vacancy factors. So they can look at this data and determine, okay, this is the direction the market's going. If we're going to do this project, here's the product I should bring in because here's where the market is. Fill the need of the market.
91, overestimating your ability to manage multiple properties.
I get asked a question all the time. When should I hire a property manager? My opinion is you should maybe manage 1 or 2, 3, max 5, then hire a property manager. Some people should hire a property manager immediately. It all depends on your personality. But the mistake I see people make is they go get 3 properties and they're all an hour apart from each other and they're in different counties, or they're over the Cascade Mountains in Eastern Washington. Your time is valuable, and it's hard to deal with that. One of my friends, she owns multiple multifamilies, and she owns halfway houses. So if you're getting out of treatment, you can go into one of these. But they're in Eastern Washington. And so, we both have a couple similar vehicles. She's got an F-150. My son stole my F-150. I have a Jeep Gladiator. She also has a Jeep Gladiator. And I said, man, I love the Ford. How many miles you got on that now? She goes, 155. And I go, what? You bought that after me. She goes, you forget how many times I go over the pass. Okay. Don't forget, everything takes time. In an ideal world, until you've got like 10 properties, they'd all be within an hour of your house, hopefully 30 minutes. And they're easy to manage.
Number 92, ignoring the potential for unexpected vacancies.
Unexpected vacancies. People die. People get divorced. People have to leave town. A life event could happen at the most random time when you're not expecting it. And as your portfolio starts to build and you own multiple properties, it's like they talk to each other. 123 Main Street goes vacant, and 425 State Street does the exact same thing at the exact same time. And it's December, and it just dropped snow. And so you have to be prepared for these vacancies to pop up when you least expect them and have those cash reserves sitting on the side, because they happen at the most random times for the most random reasons, not just because the person is moving. Life events happen.
Number 93, not understanding the cost of utilities for tenants.
It is hard to be a landlord, bro. This is something you have to work at. This is a major mistake. And so please listen. A lot of ma and pa landlords do not pass on the cost of the utilities to the tenant. And so they bear them. One of the things that we do every time we buy a property is we simply go pass on the utilities to the tenant. And they make excuses like, well, what if the tenant doesn't pay the bill? Well, what if they don't pay their rent? It's the same thing. Oh, I don't want to deal with changing it. Well, then get a property manager. But the reality is you paying their utilities is eating right into your profit, your sustainability, and is stealing from your family. Most tenants would gladly do that. Now, bonus tip. If you have a property on a well or a septic, guess what you should do? You should charge a water bill and a sewer bill. And the tenant says, but Anton, it's on a well or it's on a septic. Sooner or later, I have to fix the well and I have to pump the septic and or repair the septic. Yes or yes?
Yes, yes.
Yes, yes. So you've got to start charging for that because that expense is coming.
When you charge the water costs and the sewer costs, even if you have a well and a septic, which the reasoning for not charging is because it's just kind of passive, right? It's just there and it's kind of free. Do people even question it when you charge them?
No.
Yeah, most people don't. So you might as well.
Because if they went anywhere else and lived in the city, they'd have to pay it. I would say 1 out of 10 questions. And we say, that's our standard. Sooner or later, we're going to have to repair it. And that's it.
You should be like, hey, next time you say, go dig your own hole, install your own septic. You can plug it in, right? And then we won't charge you for this one. And how much more is that?
But like to put a cheap septic in the ground here in the north end of the metro, a cheap septic starts at 15 grand. So if that septic ever fails, it's expensive. An expensive septic starts at 35 grand and they can go to 100, you know? And so if that septic fails and they break, and tenants break them. Okay, so here's a septic story. I get a call from the tenant. The tenant goes, yeah, the toilet, it's not flushing properly. I go, what? Why is it not flushing properly? Well, it's just water staying in it and the stuff's coming back. I said, whoa, nothing should be coming back. I was like, I'm coming right over. And I go over and I go, hey, what's that in the backyard? And they're like, oh, that's an above ground pool. I said, you put an above ground pool on the drain field. So you have to, this is a mistake I made. This was my fault. I owned this. They did not pay this. This was my first time. So I learned this. This is the tenant I learned it from. In your lease, you draw where the septic is and you have them initial it as an exhibit that they won't drive there or put any heavy objects on top of it. Because even a small, like 2 foot tall kids above ground pool weighs thousands of pounds. The above ground pool that my kids have when it's full of water weighs 65,000 pounds. It's a 22 foot circle. Yes, that will crush your drain field.
Number 94, failing to account for property depreciation.
This is one of those positives and negatives. So property depreciation is awesome because I get to write it off on my taxes as it depreciates. But guess what? The property is also depreciating and will need money spent on it on a regular basis. So mentally, what we assume is we assume 1% of the value of the property every year may have to be spent on it to maintain it. That means if I buy a $600,000 asset, I may have to spend $6,000 a year just to maintain the property to keep it in tip-top condition. So I'm the crazy landlord who maintains their properties in tip-top condition and then never has to deal with the absolute major problems and major rehabs and spend the money all at once. I'd rather spend the money up front, get the best tenant possible that stays the longest, and have the nicest, cleanest house in the area. That's the way to go.
Number 95, not knowing the difference between cap rate and cash on cash.
So people look at a multifamily and they go, oh, it's got a 5% cap rate. Because it has a 5% cap rate and that data is coming from someone else, 1, always verify it. 2, never trust a pro forma. They never survive first contact. But 3, you could have an okay cap rate and not be making a good return on your cash. You could be making a negative return on your cash. So you need to look at cap rate. You need to look at cash on cash. You need to look at internal rate of return. You need to look at return on equity. There's multiple metrics that we have to look at to make sure that our assets are performing at the highest level and we're getting the best returns. Cap rate is one of those super deceptive ones.
Number 96, ignoring the impact of property taxes and insurance on ROI.
Death and taxes. These are the 2 things that are certain. The givens, death and taxes. And we know that 3 things will always be there for every property. Taxes, insurance, and maintenance, even if the mortgage is paid off. So I've got those 3. And we know that those three are going to go up in cost over time. But so many investors do not assume they will naturally be charged more. So unfortunately, because we saw that massive jump in appreciation here in the Seattle Metro, all of our investors are getting hit with massive jumps in property taxes and massive jumps in insurance. And most of our investors were not mentally prepared for that.
Number 97, underestimating the importance of a thorough written lease agreement.
I've seen this bite so many people. Your lease agreement needs to be prepared by an attorney. Don't go buy it off of LegalZoom and assume it works perfect for your city, your state, your county. Go get an attorney that specializes in real estate law and have them build one specific for you. And in these leases, no joke, they're anywhere between 10 to 50 pages. And they need to spell out the do's and the don'ts and how everything works. And anytime the tenant needs something done or wants something done, you get it in writing. And anytime you change the lease, you get it in writing. And you document with pictures and written agreement what it looks like when they move in, and then again what it looks like when they move out. And you share that with them, and you are honest and ethical, and you don't try to take their deposit unless they destroyed or damaged something and it was justified.
Number 98, relying on verbal promises from contractors.
Okay. If you own properties, you're going to run into a lot of maintenance. And the contractor will say this, oh yeah, we can get that done. We'll be there on Tuesday. Then Tuesday shows up and it's not done. And they say, oh, we can do this job for $5,000. And then all of a sudden you get the bill, and the bill's $9,000. Please understand, everyone, I am speaking because this has cost me money. This one's very important. When the contractor says, I'm going to show up on Tuesday, excellent, I'm going to send you a calendar invite. What time are you going to be here on Tuesday? Great, you're going to be here at 8. If you're not here at 8, I'm calling you at 8:05. I'm not even joking. Had a conversation today. The next thing you do is, as they're doing the job, I'm going to give you the example. I called today. I said, hey, how is the job going on Cedar? Where are we at? What's the next step? Sir, do you feel like we are on track or behind? He goes, we're behind. I said, cool, we're both on the same page. Just want to make sure. Then you ask for the bill immediately, because sometimes they'll even forget to bill you. And you want them, while it's fresh in their mind, to prepare the bill accurately. But before we do that, send me over your bid. I sign the bid and I scan it in my email and I send it back to them. So I have a signed electronic copy in my email saying what the work was going to be done, and then the material, the labor, all of that. And if the bid isn't thorough enough, I just did this. I sent it back to the contractor. I said, you have to outline this more for me. He goes, I don't want to. I said, then you're not working with me. And you have to be that staunch. Be very careful. I'd rather pay more than the homie hookup and get the right guy or gal for the right job that's going to hit the schedule, hit the number, and just get it done.
A bonus tip on this note, psychological benefit to having all written, especially the calendar invites, right, is it kind of puts you at an advantage later on if they haven't followed through with their promises on emails, and two, if they are late for appointments that you have scheduled out. Yeah. And then later you almost play dumb, right? I remember you telling me something. You literally pull up the email in real time. Oh, like you said this, right? Or it's like you said, if they're late for an appointment that's on the calendar, and then 5 minutes later text, right?
Yeah.
That you might not bring up because you look like an asshole a little bit, but they're going to remember all these things. And they're going to be like, oh shit, I really need to show up on time because I told them I was late for the last one. Versus if there's no schedule on a calendar, no written agreement in email or some kind of documentation, then it's a he said, she said, or worse, everybody forgets. It's all tucked underneath the rug. Exactly. I do this too all the time as well.
It's what we're also doing is I'm demonstrating how I want to be treated and the rules of engagement and how we're going to play together. And also, because I'm a big player, I can give you multiple pieces of business, So for me, this is how we play, and please earn my business, and then we can rock and roll into other things.
Number 99, not knowing your freedom number.
Okay. Start with the end in mind. Your freedom number is how much cash flow or do I need on a monthly basis in order to be able to just walk away and be done and be free. So if your expenses are 10 grand a month, how do I get 10 grand a month in cash flow coming in? And then it doesn't matter what the economy is doing, what the stock market's doing, what your job is doing, you are free. So define your freedom number, define your goal, and define when you want that by. So you're marching towards something. We did a whole video on just the freedom number where we dive into this one a lot deeper. Please subscribe. You'll see more of those.
Last point, number 100, forgetting that real estate investing is a marathon, not a sprint.
You've run long distances.
Yes.
What do you do?
Well, if you're just starting out with no experience running, you definitely don't run the 26 miles at first. You do 1 mile, right?
Yeah.
And then you build up, add a few miles, and you do it over the course of a few weeks, probably a few months, probably even better, a few years. If you're trying to win a marathon or if you're trying to perform really well, that's how you run a marathon successfully without killing yourself and never wanting to do it ever again.
Pace yourself.
And as you run the marathon, do you sprint out of the gate? Do you sprint up the hill? What do you do with your pace throughout the marathon?
Well, what Neutrally just said, you definitely pace yourself. Even the best of the best pace themselves because almost always they can run faster than what they actually run the full marathon in short sprints. So it's about taking your time and going at the pace that's realistic for you.
Everything that Benji just said is what we're talking about for real estate investing. You have to start by getting off the couch, putting your shoes on, and going for the first run. Or start, get off the couch, put your shoes on, and buy the first property. And then you buy the second one. What happens is if you go try to buy 10 all at once, you might end up going bankrupt. I mean, you might lose it all and have to start over. So when it's a marathon, your goal as a real estate investor is you're finding that pace. And that pace is the pace you're going at to hit your freedom number. And you're going, okay, I'm going to buy 2 homes a year for the next 10 years. And that's the pace I'm going to get. That's so specific. I know the down payment I need. I know the amount of cash I need. I know the amount of cash flow I need to do. Now I just need to go through and do the activities and make the steps. So please look at real estate as this is a marathon, not a sprint. Don't burn yourself out because this game is played in decades and in generations, not in days, months, or even years. It's played in decades. Real estate is the giant get rich slow scheme. I'm going to buy an asset and then I'm just literally going to wait and I'm going to get stupid rich as it goes up in value over time. We love talking about real estate investing, and I hope that you guys do too. Please like, subscribe, comment, join us for more. And if I missed a mistake in this, let us know. Put that mistake in the comments or any questions you have. Thank you.